See, my mule don't like people laughing.
What do you want me to do? Draw you a picture?
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood is one of the top actors of the golden age of Hollywood. But when you are so famous with the fame, then you should pay the price for it. That's exactly what happened with Clint Eastwood. He was hated by some of the stars.
Say what?
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 What? What?
Do you know why they hate Clint Eastwood and what was the actual reason? If not, you're in the right place. Let's start from early life and then we will talk about the main topic of the video. Clint Eastwood, born Clint Eastwood Jr. on May 31st, 1930 in San Francisco, was born during the tough years of the Great Depression. His family moved frequently as his father, Clinton Sr., searched for work. Eventually, they settled in Piedmont, California, where Clint's parents had met as high school sweethearts. In 1934, Clint became a big brother to his sister Jeannie, who would later live a quiet life in Carmel, close to family, and far from the spotlight her brother eventually claimed. Clint attended Piedmont Junior High and later Oakland Technical High School. After graduation, he worked various odd jobs: lumberjack, forest firefighter in Oregon, steel worker in Seattle, before being drafted into the Army in 1950. He was stationed at Fort Ord in California as a swimming instructor. One close brush with death shaped his grit. On a return trip to base, the Navy bomber he hitched a ride on crashed into the ocean. Clint and the pilot swam over a mile in the dark to reach ashore. "Sure, I thought I was going to die," he recalled later, "but I didn't." After the Army, Clint studied drama at Los Angeles City College on the GI Bill, landing a few uncredited film roles. In 1953, he met Margaret Johnson on a blind date. They married that December. Clint was juggling acting dreams with digging swimming pools to pay the rent. His first small role came in Revenge of the Creature. He and Margaret moved into a modest apartment, and Clint landed a $75 a week contract with Universal. He got a credited role in Francis in the Navy, playing a sailor opposite a talking mule, but in 1956, Universal dropped him reportedly because he talked too slow, had a mole above his lip, and his Adam's apple was too prominent. Burt Reynolds, fired the same day, joked, "I can learn to act, Clint, but you'll never fix that Adam's apple." Clint returned to digging pools and acting classes, landing minor TV roles in westerns like Maverick and Wagon Train. He starred in Ambush at Cimarron Pass, a film he later called the worst western ever made. Disheartened, he considered quitting. Then came a break. His agent suggested he check out a casting call at CBS for a new western. While chatting at the studio canteen, Clint caught the attention of executive Robert Sparks, who thought he looked like a cowboy. A screen test followed. Soon after, Clint was cast as Rowdy Yates in Rawhide. Filming began in Arizona in 1958, and Clint's journey from struggling actor to household name had officially begun. Clint Eastwood is one of Hollywood's most iconic figures, known for his tough guy image, bold directing style, and strong political views. While millions admire him, not everyone in the industry feels the same way. Over the years, several celebrities have publicly voiced their dislike or discomfort with Eastwood, whether due to creative clashes or ideological differences. Here are a few big names who just couldn't see eye to eye with him. Once upon a time in Hollywood, Clint Eastwood and Sandra Locke were more than just co-stars. They were lovers, creative partners, and for nearly a decade, housemates. But things turned out the wrong way. Locke, a talented actress and aspiring director, lived with Eastwood for nearly 10 years, even though she was still legally married to someone else. Their bond began with The Outlaw Josie Wales in 1976, the first of 6 films they did together. Clint even once called it one of his all-time favorite movies. But the real story wasn't what happened on screen. It was what happened when the camera stopped rolling. Things took a dark turn when Locke began pursuing projects outside of Eastwood's orbit. When Clint found out she was trying to direct and act in films not involving him, he locked her out of their shared home. Professionally, Locke's star began to dim. Despite her talent and beauty, Her relationship with Eastwood left a lasting shadow on her career. The breakup wasn't just personal, it turned legal. Locke sued Eastwood for palimony, and he settled the case out of court. But that wasn't the end. As part of the settlement, Clint used his influence to secure Locke a directing deal with Warner Brothers. On paper, it looked like a fresh start. In reality, it was a dead end. Over 30 of her proposed film projects were quietly rejected. The contract, it seemed, was never meant to be real. Feeling betrayed, she sued Eastwood again, this time for fraud. And once more, he settled the case privately. But by then, the damage was irreversible. Her career had suffered, and whatever love or connection they once shared had long vanished. In late 2014, Clint Eastwood's American Sniper hit theaters and quickly stirred up strong reactions. The film, centered around Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, was a massive box office success, but not everyone applauded. Filmmaker Michael Moore took to Facebook with a sharp critique. He didn't name the movie directly, but his message was clear. Moore was disappointed in the film and said that snipers shouldn't be shown in a positive light, but also revealed that his grandfather died by sniper while fighting in World War, which shows his genuine disappointment. Even though barely anyone agreed with him, as American Sniper was a massive hit, it was enough to start the fire between the two of them. A short while later, when Clint stepped up to the podium to speak, he looked out at the crowd and in that unmistakable, steely voice made a chilling remark. "If Michael Moore ever shows up at my house for an interview," he said coldly, "I'll shoot him." The room fell into stunned silence. Then a few awkward laughs broke out, but Clint wasn't joking. He looked back at the crowd and clarified, "I'm serious. I mean it." Some chalked it up to dark humor. Others saw it as Eastwood being, well, Eastwood. Either way, it was a moment that left everyone remembering just how intense things can get when art, politics, and personal beliefs collide. Even though it is said that the two of them also made up things. Back in 2006, Clint Eastwood released two back-to-back World War II films, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. Both were widely praised for their powerful storytelling, but not everyone was thrilled. Director Spike Lee took issue with what he saw, or rather what he didn't see, in Eastwood's films, Black Soldiers. Lee pointed out that African American Marines had indeed fought bravely in the Pacific, yet they were barely represented on screen. In Spike's words, "If you blinked, you missed the one black person in the film." Eastwood didn't take kindly to the criticism. He fired back bluntly, telling Lee to shut his face. Spike, never one to back down, shot right back. "Clint's not my father and we're not on a plantation," he said. "He can mind his own." He then added, "Look, he's a great director. He makes his films. I make mine. But right there, he just sounds like an angry old man." It was a heated clash, two titans of cinema, toe-to-toe over how history should be portrayed on film. But time has a way of smoothing over even the sharpest edges. Despite the fiery exchange, it said the two directors eventually buried the hatchet and shared a cordial relationship. Clint Eastwood isn't just known for his steely stare and iconic Western roles. He's also made headlines over the years for his bold political views. A lifelong conservative, Eastwood has never shied away from sharing his opinions, even when they ruffled a few feathers in Hollywood. At one point, he voiced frustration over what he saw as excessive political correctness in the entertainment industry. "People throw around words like racist too easily these days," he said, noting that when he was growing up, things were seen differently. Those remarks didn't sit well with everyone. One of the more vocal critics was Flea, the bassist for the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He felt Eastwood's comments were tone-deaf and dismissive, especially in a time when conversations about race and accountability were growing louder in the industry. While Clint never responded to Flea's statements, which were likely because fans believed that he never knew who Flea and the Red Hot Chili Peppers were, even legends can clash. And in this case, it was one gunslinger against another. Clint Eastwood, the quiet, steely cowboy of a new era, may have admired John Wayne growing up, but the admiration wasn't mutual. The Duke himself wasn't a fan of Eastwood's take on the Wild West. The trouble started when critics began comparing the rising Eastwood to John Wayne, the undisputed king of classic westerns. Wayne had built his career playing the all-American hero, the noble cowboy who stood for justice. Eastwood, on the other hand, brought something darker. His characters were brooding, morally gray loners who didn't always ride off into the sunset with clean hands. Wayne didn't like that shift at all. The final straw came in 1973 when Eastwood released High Plains Drifter, a gritty, ghostly western that Clint directed and starred in. It was violent, eerie, and far removed from the clean-cut frontier tales Wayne was known for. After the film, Eastwood wrote a letter to Wayne suggesting they team up for a western together. Imagine those two icons sharing the screen. But instead of excitement, Clint got a scathing response. Wayne blasted the film for its dark tone and unrealistic portrayal of the Old West. He didn't want anything to do with it, or with Clint. And how did Eastwood take it? True to form, he didn't respond at all. Their paths nearly crossed again in the 70s, when both were approached for a film called The Hostiles, about a gambler and an old man. Clint showed interest. Wayne passed. In the end, they never made a film together. But the rejection didn't slow Eastwood down. He went on to found his own production company, Malpaso, which produced hit after hit, just none, with John Wayne in the credits. It's one of Hollywood's biggest what-ifs. Two Western titans, one big falling out, and a film that never happened. Clint Eastwood may be a Hollywood legend, but not everyone leaves his sets with fond memories. A few major stars have vowed never to work with him again. Take Leonardo DiCaprio, for instance. Back in 2011, Leo teamed up with Eastwood for the biopic J. Edgar, where he played the controversial FBI director J. Edgar Hoover. Leo was passionate about the project. He championed it from the start, but when it came to filming, tensions quietly simmered. Eastwood is known for his no-nonsense, one-take style of directing. He likes to keep things moving. So when DiCaprio asked to redo a scene he wasn't satisfied with, Clint simply declared the day's work finished. Without fuss or fight, he just walked off the set. And with that signature Eastwood cool, he reportedly muttered, "With all due respect, sir, you're beginning to bore the hell out of me." It wasn't just Leo who was taken aback. Armie Hammer, who also starred in J. Edgar, was caught off guard by Clint's fast-paced filming style. At one point, Hammer thought they were still rehearsing. He even had the script in his hand when Eastwood called it a wrap. Hammer nervously explained, but Clint just shrugged and said, "I'll edit the script out." Though DiCaprio and Eastwood remained polite for the rest of the shoot, the experience left its mark. Leo had been lined up for another Eastwood-directed project, but he quietly backed out. It seems the Oscar winner didn't feel heard, and working with Clint just wasn't worth the silence. The one, the only Tom Hanks, even America's most beloved actor, had a few surprising things to say about working with Clint Eastwood. Their first collaboration came in 2016 with Sully, the true story of airline captain Chesley Sullenberger's heroic emergency landing on the Hudson River. With Eastwood directing and Hanks in the lead role, you'd think it was a dream pairing, but Tom quickly realized that working with Clint was different. In Hanks's own words, Clint Eastwood acts more like a cowboy than a director, and he wasn't kidding. According to Hanks, Clint ran his set with the calm authority of an old-school wrangler. No shouting, no fuss, just a steely gaze that said everything. Tom joked that Eastwood treats us like horses, which, knowing Clint's love of westerns, might not be too far off. There's even a moment Hanks described where he nervously pitched an idea for a scene, something small, something collaborative. "Clint, I have this idea," he started. "Maybe I throw the line to Aaron, and then you cut to..." Before he could finish, Eastwood shot him a quiet, icy look. That was it, no words, just the look. Needless to say, Hanks learned quickly. On a Clint Eastwood set, you speak softly or not at all and keep things moving. By the early 1960s, Clint Eastwood was finally seeing the payoff of his persistence. Thanks to Rawhide, he was earning $750 an episode, a far cry from his days digging swimming pools and chasing auditions. Despite his growing fame, Clint and his wife Margaret Johnson lived modestly, buying a quiet ranch home in Sherman Oaks to enjoy a peaceful life away from the cameras. On set, Clint had a reputation for arriving late and working at his own pace. Directors quickly learned not to schedule his scenes early in the day. This laid-back approach would later define his directing style, never starting before 9:00 a.m. and often wrapping scenes in just 1 or 2 takes. During Rawhide's second season, Clint began a relationship with actress and stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis. Their affair was an open secret, and in 1964, they had a daughter, Kimber. Clint asked Margaret for a divorce, but she fell seriously ill with hepatitis. He stayed by her side, and they reconciled. Although his relationship with Roxanne continued until 1975, meanwhile, Clint's career was about to explode. During a break from Rawhide, he traveled to Spain to star in a low-budget Western directed by Sergio Leone. The result, A Fistful of Dollars, was the beginning of the spaghetti Western era. 2 sequels followed for a few dollars more in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Initially released in Italy, the films found U.S. audiences by 1967 and made Clint an international star. In 1968, Clint and Margaret welcomed a son, Kyle, who would later become a jazz musician. That same year, Clint launched his own production company, Malpaso Productions. Over the next few years, he starred in hits like Hang 'em High, Coogan's Bluff, and Where Eagles Dare. He made his directorial debut in 1971 with Play Misty for Me and stepped into the iconic role of Dirty Harry that same year. In 1972, Clint and Margaret had a daughter, Allison, who later became an actress and model. But as his family grew, so did the distance in his marriage. By the mid-70s, the relationship was essentially over. In 1975, Clint ended things with Roxanne and began living with actress Sandra Locke, whom he met on the set of The Outlaw Josie Wales. Over the years, they co-starred in 6 films together, including The Gauntlet, Bronco Billy, and Any Which Way You Can, his biggest box office hit at the time. Margaret filed for legal separation, and their divorce was finalized in 1984 after 31 years of marriage. She reportedly received a $25 million settlement. By 1986, Clint entered a new arena politics. He ran for mayor of Carmel, California, and won. He served the small coastal town for 2 years and famously said of his gun control stance, "If there's a gun around, I want to be the one who controls it." Around this time, Clint began a relationship with Jacelyn Reeves, whom he met at his restaurant, Hog's Breath Inn. Together they had 2 children, Scott, 1986, and Catherine, 1988. Scott would go on to become an actor like his father. In the early 90s, Clint began a new relationship with actress Frances Fisher. They had a daughter, Francesca. In 1993, the same year, Clint earned Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Picture for Unforgiven. He brought his beloved mother, Margaret Ruth, as his date to the Oscars. Later that year, Clint met Dina Ruiz, a TV news anchor who was assigned to interview him in Monterey. Sparks flew, and they married in 1996. Clint was 65, Dina was 30. That same year, they had a daughter, Morgan. The family settled into Clint's Pebble Beach home, and Dina became a steady presence in his life. Even with so much personal change, Clint's career stayed strong. He starred with Meryl Streep in The Bridges of Madison County and directed Million Dollar Baby in 2004, winning 2 more Oscars for Best Picture and Best Director. He proudly attended the ceremony with his wife Dina and his 96-year-old mother. 2 years later, in 2006, Clint lost his mother at age 97. She had always been his biggest supporter. In 2008, Clint directed and starred in Gran Torino, casting his son Scott in a small role. But by 2012, things at home began to unravel. He and Dina separated, and she filed for divorce in 2013. It was finalized in 2014, ending 17 years of marriage. That same year, Dina remarried her high school sweetheart, but Clint didn't stay single for long. In 2014, he met Christina Sandera, a hostess at his Mission Ranch Hotel in Carmel. She moved into his home, and the two have been together ever since. Clint's children have embraced her warmly, saying, "We like her. She seems normal." In Hollywood, that's one of the best compliments you can get. Despite all the twists in his personal life, Clint Eastwood has remained one of Hollywood's most iconic and enduring figures, a man who built a legacy on grit, talent, and never giving up.